Chapter 35. Nock gripped the bench in the back of the speedboat as it rocketed across the water. She felt hollowed out and dizzy. She must be in a state of shock. How else could she explain sitting silently on the seat of a stolen police boat while other police boats chased right behind? It was just before sunrise, that rare time when there was hardly any traffic on the river. Nock watched the boy named Samkit as he expertly shifted gears, weaving around the choppy sections of current as if he knew exactly where to expect them. He was the one who had stolen the boat. Somehow, he'd known a secret way to jumpstart it without any keys. He seemed completely at ease behind the controls, as if he'd driven this boat a dozen times. Pong sat beside her on the other bench. She had barely looked at them since they'd run away from the stable, and she couldn't bring herself to look at him now. Search orbs reached across the dark water toward them. "They're coming up behind us," Pong shouted to his friend. "You guys hold on!" Samkit gunned the motor as he made a sharp turn upriver. The sky had lightened just enough now that he could cut the boat's headlights, but they still had the jade glow of the orb motor to worry about. Unless they could cut that off, they'd be easily found. Samkit headed for the thick pillars of the Giant's Bridge. It was the only bridge that spanned the entire river, one of the last remaining structures from Chitana's wondrous past. According to Nock's history books, it was named for the giants who helped build it. She had never given the bridge much thought before, but now that she was looking at it from underneath, she marveled that anyone could have lifted those colossal stones. Only a giant would have had the strength to sink the massive pillars there in the deepest, swiftest section of the river. Samkit expertly steered the boat to the north side of the bridge, trimming the motor to match the speed of the current. The orb behind the boat still glowed, but not as much as before, and the pillar would help hide them. The only thing to do now was wait. Nock's eyes traveled up the pillar. Elephants had been carved into the base. Above them danced celestial maidens whose lovely faces had been worn away by 100 years of rain. Nock felt like them, faded beyond recognition. Without looking, she ran her fingers over her left wrist. Who was she? She was not Nock Sivapan, that was certain. Nock Sivapan was perfect. The girl sitting in the stolen police boat was the daughter of a criminal. She'd been born in a jail. Trees dropped their fruit straight down. That was true, wasn't it? After all, she had attacked the police, run from arrest, assisted a fugitive. In the past few hours, she had entered a backward world where nothing was the way it should be. And there was one thing that was wrong most of all. The boy she'd been hunting had found her first. He had had her locked behind bars. That was his moment for victory, his chance for revenge, and he had let her go. This, more than anything else, shook Nock to her core. He let her go. Why? The police boats drew closer, their motors buzzing like a cloud of hornets. Pong and Samkit exchanged nervous glances. Nock could call out right now. She could turn the boys in. It might redeem her enough in the eyes of the law that she'd be forgiven for the other bad things she'd done that night. Nock parted her lips. She took a deep breath. He let me go, she thought. He let me go. The search orbs pivoted away. The buzz of the motors faded. The police had turned to search elsewhere. Samkit and Pong both let out heavy, relieved breaths. Nock shivered and shut her eyes. The person she once was had truly and completely vanished. After the sound of the police boats faded entirely, Samkit pressed the throttle forward again. "I'll take us a little farther upriver, someplace where we can hide this boat. I'll figure out how to send Manit a message so he can come get it." "And you really think he'll forgive you for taking it?" asked Pong. "Samkit, you're going to be in so much trouble. I don't think you'll be able to talk yourself out of it this time." "Maybe," said Samkit, chewing his lip. "But if anyone will understand, it'll be Manit. The thing I'm more worried about is what'll happen to—" He turned and scowled at Nock. He motioned for Pong to come closer. The two boys whispered together, glancing over their shoulders at her. Nock knew what they were arguing about. "You don't have to worry about me," she said. Samkit glared at her. "Oh, sure, like you won't run home and tell your daddy everything the first chance you get." Nock looked behind them at the gold lights of the western shore winking off with the rising sun. She tried to imagine walking in the door of her house and joining her parents and siblings at breakfast. Would they look her in the eyes and turn their heads in shame? Nock didn't want to find out. Now she understood what her mother had meant about gossip cutting like a knife. If anyone learned the truth about her, where she'd been born, who her real mother was, her family would never recover. No amount of spire-fighting trophies could overshadow that. They had been right to want to send her away. Away. That's where Nock wanted to go now. But where to? She couldn't picture herself at a cheerful country school in the mountains any more than she could imagine going back to her parents. For some reason, the image of the library in Lanaburi came to her, the one with all the old books. It was quiet there. A person could get lost among the shelves for a long time. "I won't be running home," she said finally. The boys exchanged a look. Nock didn't know or care what it was about. Samkit gripped the wheel and turned them north. He sliced the boat through the dark green water, maneuvering into a quiet canal on the east side. Samkit and Pong hopped out and began tying up the boat. "Where are you going to go now?" Pong asked her. But Nock had already slipped away, melting into the shadows without a sound.